Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. And I can also see your deck, so that sounds great. I can give you a little introduction. So Navin is an entrepreneur and product builder who has been leading startups since the late 1990s, working with governments, foundations, and international organizations to bring about real change in the environmental sector. So I think that this is something we definitely need, right, in Web3. Over the last 18 months, Navin has pivoted towards Web3 to combine passion for classic cars and watches with a meaningful use case for blockchain, leading to the development of a first mover B2C platform called SNIB. And the platform is designed to enable traditional luxury consumers, non-blockchain evangelists, to maintain records of provenance and chain of custody for their assets in a familiar Web2 interface, and with a view to provide customer solutions to the EU mandated supply chain 4.0. Great. So Navin, hope for that introduction did you justice, and looking forward to hearing from you.
That's a mouthful. Sorry, Lauren. You can see my screen, yeah?
Perfect.
Yeah, cool. Excellent. Okay, thanks very much. And it's so wonderful to be amongst so many like-minded people exploring this space. And I know so many of you already, and some of you know the project that I'm working on. But just want to say that if we haven't yet engaged, then please drop me a hello on LinkedIn. Add yourself to my network. I'm relatively new to Web3, and the networks and the communities in this space is what's really allowed someone like me to, enter the industry with a great feeling of support and reassurance. So thanks to all the people who are sort of super accomplished at what you do, but still manage to find the time to engage with me and help me with my journey. That includes you as well, Lauren. So I just want to say that and show my gratitude. So my name's Nav. I'm a Web3 founder. My background is in product life cycles, specifically working at height safety critical equipment, where you have to do a lot of due diligence for it. And I'm a luxury goods enthusiast. So I'm going to ask for your forgiveness for departing from a sort of strict fashion theme, given the nature of the event. However, the concept of a digital product passport can legitimately be applied to pretty much any asset. And it has a particularly meaningful use case for goods in the fashion industry. And we'll briefly explore that with a demo towards the end of this presentation. I'm going to have to turn my camera on at the end of the presentation, and I apologise. I've been relegated to my daughter's bedroom, so it's very pink and there's lots of unicorns everywhere, but I won't expose you to that too long. So first of all, let's dive into an explanation for what a product passport is. Okay, so not a digital product passport, just a product passport. So typically when you purchase goods, you'll receive a receipt, which provides confirmation that the transaction took place and that the asset is now yours. And this should ordinarily document the vendor details, time and date of the transaction, the currency used, and the value of the exchange. You may also have a product label or a tag which indicates where the product was made, sizing, material, composition, or ingredients, depending on the nature of the product. The brand name and the model or the range if it's part of a collection, details of how to connect with the company, and probably a serial number or a SKU code, again, depending on the type of product. And obviously, food items will or should at least have nutritional details. And in an ideal world, this kind of label would be used for, all garments to dig deeper into the material composition and the details of the source of the materials used. Now, I don't need to explain this to this audience, obviously, but in too much detail. But that's obviously to aid circularity and to facilitate considered consumption. If the goods were shipped to you, the shipping label will identify you as the recipient, maybe even a date on there as well. And any additional tags or labels which might add to the storytelling aspect of the brand or the product you have. Now, you could store all of this, so all of the labels, the documents, the tags in a ring binder or some sort of folder for every asset you purchase. And when it comes to assets such as classic cars, this is exactly what people do, but we have to consider the practicalities of doing this for almost every asset we purchase. So, what are the benefits of digitizing? Well, you can create a centralized bank of data. So the benefits of this comes when you consolidate the data in one place, which helps to avoid losing vital information. Increased transparency for both consumers and businesses because the information regarding the material is not always accessible. Recyclers further down the value chain may have different grades of material, so it helps to identify and classify the component uses. It facilitates well-informed purchasing decisions to help consumers make more sustainable choices and monitor their impacts on the environment. And just links back to my comments previously about considered consumption. And authenticity and provenance. And this is one of the most important aspects of due diligence that has to be considered when purchasing high value or limited run luxury goods. Um, where does that asset come from? Is it genuine? How many owners has it had? Has it had any previous repairs? And if so, were genuine parts used? Improve sustainable practices throughout a product's life cycle. This is mainly due to the increased availability of information for every member of the supply chain. So tackling greenwashing, thus promoting more circular business models. And again, I'm not going to talk too much around this because there are sort of real experts in this field, such as Marie de Roos from Positive Fibres, who should be everyone's go-to on this oracle on the subject. So going a little off piste here, but digitally connected products can provide information about consumer behaviour, and this offers the opportunity to optimize products efficiently. This will promote upselling and direct customer service, as well as loyalty and possibly royalty too, if we're dealing with NFTs, depending on how that's structured. And verify compliance. This is where sorry, Lauren, you had to do that tongue teaser at the start. But this is to do with supply chain 4.0. So the European Commission recently released its March Circular Economy Package, which includes a proposal for eco-design for sustainable products regulation, the ESPR. Now, the ESPR sets a digital product passport, or DPP, as a key regulatory element, enhancing the traceability of products and their components. So it's worth noting that the Supply Chain 4.0 has already been mandated by the EU because they too recognise many of the benefits we're highlighting here, as well as the need to make sure that products are cost effective whilst of course being competitive. Now, word of warning, integration and interoperability will be the vital factors at play to see this as successful. And brands building out sort of closed door solutions in silos will definitely slow the rate of adoption. Unfortunately, that's happening a lot at the moment. Legacy planning. So it's specific to high value or luxury assets or heirlooms, where you make the process of inheriting your possessions easier for your next of kin, whether that's a catch trust or whoever you leave your estate to. And disposal. So selling an asset with its provenance and life story will almost always get you a better return and make the decision making easier for the consumer. So when you consolidate all this data electronically, you get a digital product passport, or a DPP. And if we were to create a definition for this, we could say that a DPP is a method of digitally recording information or inventory in a product to produce an easy to access and centralized bank of information. Now, just briefly touching on connected products again, which present a whole new way of interacting with your assets and with the brand. So things like token gating, which runs on the public blockchain to unlock spaces, communities, events, and loyalty gifts, etc. And again, like I said, I'll show you an example I've mocked up of that in a bit. So I'm just going to briefly introduce you to SNIB, which is a product I'm working on. It's an asset management tool, but it's unique in several ways. It's an asset management tool for luxury and collectible goods, which consolidates collections and a group of collections into a single portfolio by creating digital twins on blockchain. And someone asked me one time why you do it in a block, why you're using blockchain. Why can't this just be a Web2 platform? And the reason for that is because the platform has features which are reliant on the immutable and transparent nature of blockchain. So proving that authenticity in that chain of custody and making sure it hasn't been messed around with in the past. And our goal was to deliver this within a considered ecosystem experience. And we do this by providing the tool to buy, own, and dispose of these assets safely, as well as providing the opportunity for users to connect with their digital twins in a far more interactive way. So SNIB is one of the tools that both brands and consumers can use to protect themselves against problems such as counterfeiting and the disposal and purchasing for true value, legacy planning, and overall asset management. There are two parts to the system: the consumer platform, which is where end consumers catalog their assets using a very typical but intuitive asset management tools, and benefiting from storing crucial reminders, documentation, asset valuations tracked by decentralized oracles such as Chainlink, Brand Protocol, or Supra, and the NFTs for each asset, which I, one day hope can be minted on the Aura blockchain consortium. So if any of our listeners can open any doors there, because I seem to be too much of a small fish for them to engage with at the moment, but that would provide incredible validation and traction to what we're hoping to achieve here. One day Aura will be desperate to engage with me, but it'd be good to expedite that if we can. And then we have the marketplace. So it's a very typical eBay model, but as a closed and exclusive community. And we want to develop a trusted platform for vendors to dispose of assets along with the digital twin for true values, and for consumers to purchase with reassurance of authenticity and provenance. And you can see from some of the UI mock-ups on the right-hand side of this slide, which allow users to track their portfolio, their entire portfolio value and profit and loss, as well as the metrics for individual vaults using oracles, as I mentioned previously, to track the average values at any given point in time. And these are the main sectors we cater for. So there's a virtual garage, which stores classic cars, supercars, yachts, and other kind of aquatic craft, planes, helicopters. Real estate, that's for owner-occupied commercial portfolios, domestic tenanted property portfolios. The jewelry vault, which is for watches, jewelry, precious metals. Virtual gallery for antiques and art, physical and digital. And then collectibles, which is pretty much a catch-all, so sneakers, garments, trading cards, shoes, stamps, coins, books, etc. Okay, so this is the exciting part now. I get excited about this. Right. So let's round off by looking at a brief example of digitizing an IRL asset. And in this case, it's my children, my pair of unworn, it's not really my children, my pair of unworn Magnus Walker high dunk highs, which I purchased from StockX earlier this year. And this kind of activation should be very familiar to today's audience. I've not actually turned them into a wearable because I don't know how, but that's essentially what I'm trying to portray in this picture. A big shout out to Diego, who Pauline just mentioned, who I have to credit for giving me this exclusive penthouse. And if you haven't already done so, I highly recommend checking out his course on how brands should enter the metaverse and NFT space, which you can find on NAS Academy. But what I really want to show here was, I get ridiculously excited about this part as an example of how all this data can be presented in a meaningful way to the end consumer. So I'm going to have to stop sharing. I have to stop sharing and share another screen. Just 2 seconds. Sorry, just bear me a second. Okay, can you see that?
Perfect.
Yeah, actually, do you know what I'm going to do before I do that? I'm going to switch on my camera and show everyone my daughter's bedroom. Right, so I have here the trainers, which you've just seen on screen. And it's really simple. I've got a completely non-tech background, but all I've done is I've added an NFC chip into there's a camera there. I've entered an NFC chip into the tongue. So just going to, you can see that pop up. So I've created a digital product passport, which is essentially what I'm sharing on the screen now. You won't be able to see it on my phone, so that's why I thought I'd share it on here instead. And cool. And this shows you this is the sort of information you'd be able to store on a DPP. So you've got your purchase cost, your estimated value here, which is tracked by the Oracle, which shows you your profit and loss. You got your data here from the brand, the model, SKU codes, when you bought it, who you bought it from. You can attach any labeling to it here, any additional photos, and then you can start building up the product life story. So here I've just kind of made up a scenario. Item was purchased by me at that date for that price, scanned to the vault. 3 days later, it was used in a photo shoot. Items were cleaned then. So that is pretty much it. Let me stop that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'd just like to finish off with a request, and that is to anyone who's building something similar around the principles of digitizing IRO assets, and specifically where the NFT holds data about the assets. Please feel free to reach out to me. I genuinely think that we should be working collectively on interoperability and the way, at the very least, the way that the data behind these assets are being tagged. So for those of you who have ever migrated from one kind of accountancy package or CRM package to another, you will understand the painful process of data cleansing and fields being contaminated with the wrong data. And we can eliminate that pain point for Web3 users and consumers, our consumers, by working on some forms of standardization protocols at this kind of very early stage. And this has nothing to do with, eroding competitive advantage or releasing trade secrets. It's just about us all singing from the same song sheet to avoid future issues. Yeah, thanks very much to MFC for inviting me to speak today. For someone like me, it's an incredible honor to share the speaker platform with so many accomplished founders, and I hope that you all found the talk useful. So thanks very much. Thanks, Lauren.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Navin. That was great. I think you introduced so many valuable aspects, including, the supply chain 4.0. That's really interesting that there's already legislation being built around this. I know in France, they recently, I think last year, created a law that there's a ban on destruction of unsold products. So there's definitely a massive need for how are we going to solve and answer these problems that this legislation will be addressing. So I think you're doing that. Love your attitude, about this is a really complex kind of problem. There's a lot of different factors involved within supply chain to ownership, from the brand side, the manufacturing side, and then the individual side. So, I totally agree with you. We will get there by kind of working collectively and sharing, which I think is a major benefit of also Web3 and kind of what I've experienced in Web3. But yeah, really great. And what would you say would be needed to kind of get it to a circularity level of, because I see with that product journey you showed, there's so much potential where you said product is clean, product is repaired, where both brands and consumers can kind of work together to create that circular journey. Would you say that is also kind of where you're thinking as well?
Yeah, I think this we're going to notice the adoption of this when brands or retailers start building in, point of sale integration. That's where we can really, because at the moment, if you have a system like SNIB, it's reliant on a user kind of inputting that data. The moment we have point of sale, where the moment you sell it, you're at the till and you scan a QR code and you can integrate it into your wallet instantly. That's, but in a Web3, in a Web2 way, because this is the problem. I think expecting I'm not being ageist, but expecting a traditional Lauren, are you still talking? I can see your mouth moving.
I think my video is delayed. Can you hear me?
Okay, all right. Oh, I thought you were talking to me then. It was really confusing.
Turn off the video.
Yeah, no, expecting I don't know, someone who's a traditional luxury consumer who's been purchasing for assets for the last 50 years, just kind of build up an image of their age. And then them walking into Tiffany and Co. and Tiffany saying, okay, I need you to download this wallet so that, you know, when you buy this asset, it's just people are going to kind of haven't got the time for that, or haven't got the inclination to learn at a certain stage in their life. And it has to be seamless, and the brands and retailers have to be on board with making it happen as well. Yeah, and I see, you know, there's a lot of kind of activations happening by brands at the moment, and some of them are, you could argue some of them are really successful because they're making brands a lot of money. You know, we're talking in the millions, some of them 25 million. But is the value add really there for the consumer, or is it for the brand? And I think that question has to be asked longer term.
Yeah, definitely agree. Perfect. All right, I'm gonna try turning on my video again and see how it goes. Well, thank you so much, Navin. Great presentation, so interactive. And now let's